In July of 1973, I watched a baby die. His name was Sam. He weighed less than 3 pounds when he was born and didn't really have a chance from the start. He was born to a teenage mother who came into the emergency room in labor. She was anemic. She hadn't had any prenatal care during the entire course of her pregnancy. And Sam wasn't breathing when we delivered him in the ER, and we had to resuscitate him before we transferred him to the neonatal intensive care unit. And I was part of his short life from the moment he was born till the moment he died 2 days later. And I can still remember standing by the incubator during that final hour and looking into his eyes, knowing what was going to happen, and feeling very depressed and very helpless. And I remember what a quiet death it was. There was no one in the room but me and his mom and a nurse. Nobody else knew about this little baby's two-day fight to survive. Never made the newspapers, never made the evening news. It was an anonymous tragedy that touched the lives only of those people who were directly involved. I remember Sam's death because it was one of the first I'd seen as an intern. It was a quiet, unremarkable death of someone at the very, very beginning of life. Now, Sam died because we didn't know as much then as we do now about treating respiratory distress syndrome in newborns. But he also died because somehow no one had made the token investment to give his mother the prenatal care she needed during her pregnancy that could have prevented his prematurity and his low birth weight in the first place. Sam died over 35 years ago. But those anonymous tragedies are still happening here in our state, and they're accelerating. In our general fund, there is a relentless trend towards spending more and more money on public safety and corrections and the human consequences of neglect and abuse and addiction, and less money on education, on prevention, on investing in children and families. And one of the central challenges that we have in the next 8 months is to turn that around, is to try to change our pattern of investments in this next budget, to decide what we want our state to look like 10 years from now, and to use the next budget as a foundation for building that future for the state of Oregon. That's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. We need to decide what's best for Oregon, and we need to act, and we can't be wrong, because we're not going to get another shot at this. Every election is a choice, including this one. I've lived in and loved Oregon for most of my life. As an ER doctor in rural Douglas County, as a legislator, and as a governor, I spent most of my life in Oregon, working with Oregonians and standing up for Oregon values, standing up for middle-class families, protecting our environment, defending a woman's right to choice. I'm running because those values are worth fighting for, and that's one of the differences in this race. But there are some others. We need jobs in Oregon. And I've actually helped create some, over 100,000 in fact. More importantly, I have a plan to create thousands of new jobs now, when Oregonians need them the most. By contrast, my opponent has proposed an $800 million set of tax breaks that will benefit primarily upper-income Oregonians, but won't create a single job for the 200,000 people who are out of work today. And how are we going to pay for that? By taking money out of education, out of prevention, out of investments in children and families, the very things we need to be doing to move our state forward, the very services that struggling families need in the midst of a recession. In fact, over half of Mr. Dudley's proposals increase spending without providing a way to pay for them. This is no time to raise taxes, but it's also no time to spend money that we don't have. This is a great state, you know that, and we have the promise of a very, very bright future. But it's going to take a governor who can go to work on day one, creating jobs and work skills for the unemployed, protecting important social services, and defending our schools. Those are the things I've stood up for all my life. Those are the values that I believe in and that I will continue to fight for every single day. You can count on that. And here's something else you can count on. Oregon's best days really do lie ahead. My name is John Kitzhaber. I'm asking for your vote on November 2nd. Thank you very much.